Welcome to Nature Speaks, everyone. My name is Tracy, and this is today's message channeled from the spirits and energies of the natural world. The great spirit of the oyster steps forward with a blessing of empowerment and an invitation of collaboration. And they would start by offering that many of us may perceive the oyster as unthinking or unaware, and simply some sort of form of lower biological function. This is inaccurate. We are most aware, and we are most grateful to be that which has and is offered this opportunity for high service in the cleansing, purification, and rebalancing of everything that's within the oceans right now. They invite us to, with great enthusiasm, to continue, as we have begun, to repopulate these big oyster beds all around, not only as that which we are farming to consume, the actual physical oyster, but as that which has, and then we actually create and return these large communities where the oyster in its nature has an amazing filtration process, is able to help to clear out all sorts of stuff that in great measure the human collective has put in. Our waste products, our manufacturing waste products, our trash. We've just been using it as a dumping ground, which I'm sure all of you are already aware of. And so this is the reason that we are being invited to also claim our oyster nature and the great mantle of that empowerment as one who has and is able to filter out that which has and would be unworthy of consumption. But when you have all these things in the water is contaminated with all this, anything that lives in there, be it the fish, the bivalves, the crustaceans, you name it, anything that's in the water is contaminated with this and is being poisoned by this. And as humans, anything that we seek to consume that comes from the waters is filled with all this stuff. So they look, they go, it's not really highly discerning to be wanting to consume stuff that already has, all these life forms that are already filled with all this. Like, if you took that middle step out, you wouldn't want to be just consuming your own waste products, your discharge from your machines, etc., etc. And so they look to us, we are really great at filtering out contaminant. However, the amount of contaminant that is now presently in the waters requires more than just our own powerful capacities. It also, and this is the invitation, right? It requires that which would be, as you are willing, your own claiming of your oyster nature as that which also is able to filter out through your choosing, to shift behaviors, to clean out what has already been placed in, to no longer continue to contaminate with what has and causes harm either to those who live within the oceans or to ourselves as we consume the life forms that live within the waters. They further invite us to comprehend that the claiming of one's oyster nature, the ability to be a great process of filtration, is the blessing of the ability to be able to filter out through our discernment not only the physical aspects of our world that might be of harm to us, but also the information, what they describe as coming through the airwaves. There is so much out there now that is just flooding your awareness And you may find it quite useful to claim your oyster nature as that which has and holds the blessing of high discernment and the ability to filter out what does not serve your well-being, what has and may enter into your field and cause distress in some way. Just because you're able to consume it, because it's available to consume, does not mean it is in your best interest to consume, or that which would serve your highest good. So the blessing of discernment and the ability to call forth the filtration of what just doesn't feel right to us, causes us to be agitated, and there's a lot of it out there. So this is a twofold blessing that we're offering you. One, the blessing of claiming your ability as you choose to embark in a beautiful and powerful partnership and respectful partnership as co-collaborators for the cleaning and healing of this beautiful source of life that are the great waters. They also acknowledge, and most of us are aware, that oysters will generate a pearl. And they asked me to describe how we create pearls. All I understood about it was that if there was an irritant that was placed within them, within their shell, that would cause them agitation or harm, but they would start to coat it with their something, that would create, again and again, that would create a protective encasement of that which has and might cause them harm or discomfort or wound them. You may also be seeded with, through circumstance, relationships, the intent of another, that which has and also causes an irritation or is an irritant in our field, that we have the ability through our oyster nature to acknowledge that it's there, to consume that which may be the learning that is offered, and yet not to continue to allow it to agitate or cause harm to our awareness. In this, as we have and claim the learning that is being offered through the experience, and some of the experiences are no fun, they acknowledge that too. They go, you may have things that are, life experiences that are very painful, very challenging, and yet you're not required to keep them in a way inside of your field, inside of your heart, inside of your emotional awareness as that which continues, like rips the scab off the wound all the time, that it continues to agitate your energy field. Rather, you can acknowledge it, you can accept that it's there, and then through your own intention, you can choose to set boundary around it so that it no longer wounds you. And then, yes, and they acknowledge that this is such a truth that it has become so commonplace that it kind of got discarded, and that is to claim that a pearl of wisdom that you have created through the exchange of a life experience, however painful or uncomfortable, and that you may place along that which is the strand of your learning in this lifetime. To comprehend that we are empowered as we choose not to live with the wound in our side of a great trauma, or whether it's a physical trauma, an emotional trauma, whatever it is, that we can accept that that is what has happened and then no longer choose to be in the place of continually allowing it to wound us is another aspect of the power of claiming our oyster nature. They further acknowledge that humans actually place these irritants into oyster shells such that they create the activity, the action of the creating of a pearl through the oyster working really hard not to be wounded by this. This is not pleasant for them. They aren't saying we shouldn't do it. They're acknowledging that there are times when others may place something that has or would cause a wounding or an irritation into your own field, and that you may choose to allow it to be coated with your own boundary and acknowledgement, and to remove it from its constant agitation or potential harm or damage that it can do. So this is the short video summary of channeling that came through from the Great Spirit of the Oyster. And to all who have and receive it, I am most grateful for your light. If you are drawn to consume more than this short video summary, access to the full channeling of today's update is available on the Gaia Translate podcast, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform, or listen for free at www.gaiatranslate.com.